Hey everybody, Kevin here. Got my hands on some of the Muse Minis 2D Building and Rubble Set, and I want to do a quick honest review on them and give my impressions on the terrain and what it looks like. So this terrain set comes in at $30 US and basically consists of 6 terrain pieces or 6 templates for terrains. You have 2 4x4s, you have 2 4x6s, and then you have 2 5-inch diameter terrain pieces. I'm going to go ahead and pull these off. So one of the things I did like about the set is that when you get them, they come in 2. So you have the building version and then you have the rubble version, which is good from a sense of if you get 6 pieces of terrain, if you were to maybe get one of a city fat mat or any of the other city terrain type mats that they have out there, then these buildings and rubbles would allow you to play kind of a cityscape where you don't have this random forest that bloomed out of the ground for your setting. You can actually play with it based on an actual cityscape. But the other thing that I like about it is if you ever decide that you want to play with the old destructible buildings or destroyable buildings rule, you can start with the building, and then once it has been destroyed, you have a exact duplicate of it for the rubble, which I think is really cool. So anybody who wants to play with those old rules can, based off of this terrain set. One of the things about the terrain set, obviously, is that these are 2D terrain pieces, which means that you're never going to have a situation. So as an example, if this piece right here was to be 3D. You're going to have this wall right here. There's going to be a chimney right here. You're going to have rubble pieces here. This is going to be raised up high, so you might have issues where models want to be under or over or whatever. So you get into that realm where the models are just like, crap, where do I put the model in this precision measurement game to not get extra inches or reduce myself inches or something like that, because I have to balance on 3D. So, and that's one of the big things about these 2D terrains is that they remove the guesswork of where can I put, how can I turn this model to make sure that there perfectly, it has a slight tilt to it, and then if anybody comes along and bumps the table, all of a sudden the model's falling over and you have an altered game state. Not necessarily a replaceable game state, but an altered game state, because where you put it back is not going to be 100% perfect. And that's really kind of the gist of why a lot of people like 2D terrain, is that there's never a situation where you have an altered game state due to the terrain. Nothing prevents a random arm from hitting something or something like that, but the terrain will never be an issue. And I know that one of the concerns for people was, well, the 2D takes away from the aesthetic of the game. And I will be honest with you. I am a type of person who likes 3D terrain. I think it provides a visual to the game. But you can't argue with the fact that this terrain really does make the game a lot cleaner, a lot more precise. So one of the things that I have said, because we're actually going to start using these 2D terrains on our video battle reports to make sure that we have a more precise game. But one of the things I have challenged is I've challenged Steve Pokey to develop clones of this terrain in a 3D form that we can set on top of the template, so that for the purposes of individuals like me who want to see 3D models and see that this tower sitting right here, blocking the view and allowing me to immerse myself into the experience, or a 3D replica of the rubble to allow me to immerse myself in the experience. If at any point in time a model enters into the template's domain, we can remove that 3D piece, set it off to the side, and then be able to interact with it without necessarily having a game state change. And I think that's really where the community needs to go with this, where it's the best of both worlds. You get 2D and a 3D version of things. From the perspective of aesthetics, I think the colors are very vibrant. I enjoy the fact that you've got all these different colors playing into it. They could have easily just set down this template and been like, here's a bunch of shingles and call it done. There's your house. But they go through the effort of having lit windows, having this kind of steampunky vent thing that's going on with the chimney. I love the fact that when you look at the buildings when they're in complete shambles or in complete ruins, you can see that, let me put it the right way, so chimney, you can actually see where this sort of window grate thing still exists in the template. They really basically designed it to look exactly like the other one did after it's been destroyed. I think that's awesome. The fact that they take the time to really immerse themselves in their own aesthetic. They're not just throwing up crappy images, or they're not just throwing up, you know, an image and going, oh, well, this is a house, it's good enough. They're actually, honestly, in a way, they're telling a story here of here was a building and this is what happened to it after it was destroyed. And I think that's awesome. I think the price point's great. If you think about it, for $30, you're getting 6 things. It's $5 a template. Although I wouldn't necessarily suggest playing a game with only obstruction and only rubble, there's nothing saying you can't. So there's nothing saying that you couldn't purchase this pack of 6 templates and then set them on the table and have a perfectly functioning, you know, table. Like, it's not like, well, you get this and then you have to get another in order to even play a game. So if you're playing on a budget, there's nothing saying that you can't. I also think that from a usability standpoint, the fact that these things are flat means that I can literally throw these into a manila folder into my book bag and I've got a terrain set for a table. Like, if I'm playing on a coffee table, at least my terrain looks good, and me and my mate can, you know, just play out the game, and then, you know, scoop things up, throw it in, and then when I'm all said and done, my table packing is that thick. I mean, that, from a usefulness standpoint, that's just absolutely amazing that you can just kind of toss it and go. Obviously, for those of us who like the 3D world, like myself, that wouldn't be possible. We couldn't do that. So there's some give and take in the scenario. I like the 5 inchers because I really feel like these are large enough where a small base isn't, you know, every once in a while you see a table where there's just this little tower and there, you know, the heavy warjack will just kind of skirt around it, and who cares? With this thing being a 5-inch diameter, I mean, you've got distance to walk to get around this thing. This is not a one-turn move and then do something. I also like the fact that it's 5 inches so that it can actually be a place where you can put a huge base model behind it and get a lot of coverage from it. So I really think that these are really, you know, good. Like I said, I really love the fact that you're kind of getting this story out of these templates. The only thing that I'm going to ding on is that, and I don't know if this was a package that maybe had an earlier image. There's a I don't know how to describe it. There's almost like a slight white sheen, and I think that's the material being used. Where it's not the saturation of the colors there, but it's ever so slightly faded. So on a scale of like 1 to 5. I feel like from an aesthetic standpoint, I'd go like a 4.8 or a 4.7 or something like that, or even go to a 4.5, just from the standpoint of that white sheen seems to kind of pull off of the saturation. And I have to imagine, this is no ding on Muse, but I have to imagine after a while of these templates getting used, their saturation is going to slowly wear down, because it's a mouse pad. If you've ever had a mouse pad before, you know full well that after running it over every once in a while, that it's just going to turn around and start losing its luster. You would expect that. So that may be just you know, something that you have to go into. But for $30, I mean, seriously, $30? What's there to complain about? I lost some saturation. Okay, I only spent $30. I paid more for just a heavy jack than I did for an entire table's worth of terrain. So I think from a usefulness standpoint, you get an entire table's worth of potential terrain. I think I love the aesthetics. I love the story that they have in these things. Overall, I think it's a great buy. And if you're looking for 2D terrain and you want kind of a more cityscape, less forest and lakes and stuff like that, this is definitely a buy for you, and you want to go to the Muse store and check them out. Until the next review, have a good day. Thank you.